but I think, and I'm just going to try to click through. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, so MAP in Clark County. I know that we had training with the MAP representative, and I've expressed the fact to MAP that training did not exactly fit our needs. So we're doing this, and so Scott and I have been getting into MAP, getting into the MARC site, playing around with it, making sure that we have pretty good knowledge of how to do what we need to do within the MAP site to be able to set up sessions, assign accommodations, what the view looks like from a teacher view, what the view looks like from a student view. But the one thing that I want everyone, just a few things to remember, is MAP is not milestones, okay? Let's kind of put that out of our heads. MAP, one of the ways it's not milestones is it's an adaptive test, which means that MAP is going to go with a student up to their level or down to their level, okay? We're going to get a lot of great information from MAP. We are going to use MAP, the primary screener for RTI, for grades K through 7, and then we're also going to use it for placement in gifted. So just briefly, some topics for today. Is everyone able to log in to the MARC site? So the MARC site is this one, this teach.map.org. And if anyone in here able to sign and not able to sign in, able to sign in, you should.
I can send it to the top one, but the bottom one is the one I'm having trouble with.
Okay, yeah, so the top one is the actual MARC site where you go in, you can find your students, you can find your rosters, your teachers, everything. You can assign sessions from there. That'll be the one that they actually, that you actually work in. The bottom one is the training site, which is a different website, which is kind of strange. The training site has like basically courses that you can take as a test coordinator or as an instructor or as a proctor. So you can assign those courses to people who are also logged into that site. Now that one you go in and you can create your own password by basically clicking that you can't remember your login. So if you click in there, you'll be able to see the videos. And that's more of a follow-up, I feel like. That's more giving you a broad view of what MAP is about. Here, I feel like it's good for us to get together in person so that we can see it ourselves, to be able to work together on how this is going to work in Clark County. Okay, but I'm leaving that there as a resource for y'all. It's an ongoing resource. It's never going to go away. But if you feel like you need some extra support and you want to watch those videos, you can go in there and watch those. But just know that that's a different login. It's not the same login as the actual MARC site, which I'm not even sure what MARC stands for, but that's what they call it. So what we're going to get to today, MAP growth for most of you in this room as test coordinators, setting up sessions, homerooms and classes, small groups, accommodations. Then we're going to go through a map, how it looks from the view of a teacher, and then also how it looks from the view of a student as well. Okay. So in CCSD, we're going to administer MAP 3 times during the school year. So this first administration window starts 1 week from now, August 16th. It's going to close on September 7th. Just know that that window, we've already extended it a week. That window is set by us, okay? So if you're having some issues in your school buildings and you need some extra time, I don't think there will be any problem with giving you a little bit of extra time. So just keep that in mind. This is not like milestones, again, where we're adhering to a state window and we have to do it within 12 days. And I mean, I think we're all going to understand that this first time using MAP as a district-wide will have some kinks that we'll need to work out. Now, kindergartners will not do this first administration of MAP growth. That was one of the key recommendations that I took away from our trainer from MAP. Is it's a good idea for kindergartners not to do MAP. We're going to cover what they're going to do at another date. We need to worry about getting the GKIDS readiness check done with them first, and then we'll look at another MAP tool, that the MAP skills checklist for them, which can give us some information on kindergartners for this first administration. but we're going to look at trying to do that before October 12th. Okay, so keep that date in mind as well. Window 2, kindergartners will participate in Window 2. That's going to be our winter window, December 3rd through 19th. And then our last window is an extended window because we need to get a bunch of students tested at the same time, basically, that milestones are going on. So that should be an interesting window, to say the least. And the reason why I've extended it so far is so that we can sort of pace out which grades we're going to do over that period of time. April 16th is actually the first week of milestones for CCSD as well. So just think through that, and we'll think through that as that's coming up, of when the pacing of that will be. Now, all of these dates are in the assessment calendar. They're all linked on the Google calendar as well. That's CCSD assessment and PL calendar. So just keep that in mind. So the test per grade level, and I'm going to talk here specifically about window 1. So grade 1, notice we're not doing kindergarten in this first window. Growth reading and growth math. So the only kids who are going to be tested on the reading K2 and math K2 this first administration are going to be first graders, because growth reading, and you can see how that kind of crosses over K2 and 2.5, and one of the decisions we needed to make was which test our second graders going to make. Well, we have determined that probably the best course of action is going to be for second graders to take the 2 through 5 test. Okay. Now, the only difference, and Scott and I previewed both tests, the only difference that we could see is that on the K2 test, all questions are read. If you have second graders who need the questions read to them, you can assign that accommodation in the MAP site. So we didn't see any advantage to assigning, our second graders the K through 2 test. We felt that we needed to make that decision as a district, all do the same thing across the district, just so we're all consistent. So at 2 through 5, you'll see that we have an additional test. The language test takes us all the way through 12. So for us, it'll take us 2 through 7. So there's actually 3 tests for grades 2 through 5. And then the same is true for grades 6 and 7. Growth reading will be the 6 plus test, math 6 plus, and language 2 through 12. Now these are the titles of the math growth assessments in the MAP site. So I tried to keep that consistent so we'll all kind of get on the same page with that. I was trying to be intentional about calling this math growth. There will be another assessment, progress monitoring assessment called MAP skills that we will also use as well. So I'm trying to keep my language delineated there. Time that it's been taking, average test times. So at grade 1, I went back and I looked at the pilot that we did in grade 1. The average test time was about 24 minutes. According to MAP, they say it's supposed to take about an average of 30 minutes for all students for the reading and math K through 2. For grades 2 through 5, the pilot average time was about 47 minutes. So keep that in mind. 45 minutes is what they say. It looks like our students were taking a little bit longer than the average. Now, I was not able to, for some reason, I was having trouble pulling the time data for the middle school students, but I've heard from Chris that it took students in middle school up to an hour and a half, and even some of those students didn't finish. So you middle school folks, you may have a situation where you're going to have to suspend a test if it's going to go past a grade period or something like that, and then continue it the next day. So you have that ability to suspend the test and then continue it the next day if students are taking a long time. They're taking more than an hour, basically.
James, is that pilot average time, is that when they use it during summer school?
I'm sorry.
The pilot average time that you have there for each of the assessments, is that from when they used it during summer school?
Yes. Yeah. Well, summer school plus the when we did the I'm just gonna. Laura's trying to call in, so I'm just gonna put her on speaker. the same as what they project, except for when we're looking at middle school. And we can talk through some of that as well. So, a couple of things about device readiness. We should be ready to go with our student devices. Technology has pushed out the apps for Chromebooks and iPads. It's the NWEA Secure Testing app. If you're having trouble on a different type of device, like if I was using this laptop to administer math or that desktop, you can actually go here and download the Secure Testing browser down here. This is from the home page. You can download it for PC or Mac version. I actually did that on my desktop upstairs. It actually locks down your whole computer. You can't click on anything else. So that it does work. It does. So you can do that in case you're using a different device other than the ones that already have the app preloaded. The apps will also lock down devices and just let students take tests. That's all they'll let you do. And then
If you've only did that in summertime,
It doesn't anyway.
oh, it just does it automatically.
it's the app. The app actually
It's like
locks.
how
It's
we
like
do the
milestones.
milestones.
It's like milestones.
Yeah,
And it's automatically there.
it's automatic. Yeah, it locks you down automatically. Yep.
The app menu.
Right.
I have a
So let's move into creating test sessions in MAP. Who has played with creating test sessions, looked at your rosters, looked at how MAP works within the platform? Okay, well,
Just trying to get regular roster straight.
Chris, obviously.
I'm logged in the other day.
So what we've done in the background is to we've loaded all of our rosters from campus into the MAP site. So all your teachers are in there, all the rosters, all the class names as they're named in campus are in here. The students are all assigned to those classes. Okay.
Does that change like, every night? Because our
No.
rosters are changing daily.
Not right now.
So they swap classes.
So what's,
Will
how
it?
fast?
Yeah, what's the thing gonna be?
The sync is going to be, we're going to do it manually every day right now because MAP, and this is getting in another technical thing, MAP does not sync directly with campus. It uses Clever. Clever is currently being used by other programs for our district, and we have not purchased another site license for Clever. So right now, Eve is pulling rosters and uploading them every day manually. Okay? We're working with them to try to figure out a better solution, but it's really not like a huge thing. Download the roster, upload it into MAP. She's got a report that's already easy. So Chris brought this up earlier, test my class. So one way that you could do this, and this is not the way that we've set this training up, teachers could go in and test my class, right? So it cuts you out completely because a teacher is an instructor in here, they're a proctor. That's a little bit tricky, obviously, for a few reasons, because then you're handing over a great deal of trust to your teachers to be able to set up sessions. And in these cases, assign accommodations also. So what I'm suggesting is that we keep this at sort of a 3-tiered level where Scott and I are here, we're disseminating information to you where you're making the best decisions on how to create your test sessions and then assigning teachers to those sessions or proctors to sessions, just like we do for milestones. That's the system I'm comfortable with, probably the system you're comfortable with. So my suggestion is to not do the test my class options, but I just wanted to make sure that you knew what that was on this page. So what I've done here is I've clicked into manage sessions. You see on that left side of the screen, you click into manage sessions, and I'll click in here in a moment after I've gone through this. You see where the red arrow is? Now, if you've already created sessions, they're not going to show up immediately. That's just going to be a long line. You have to click over on that hide or show, just to keep that in mind as well. Don't get frustrated with that. Also, if you look at the created by box, the auto populate is going to be your name. So if you're looking for sessions that have been created by everyone, just delete your name from there and wait for a second, and then all proctors will become an option. Click all proctors, and then you'll see all the sessions in your school. Okay, and I'll show you how that works in a moment as well. Okay, so here's where I think I'm going to start getting in and showing you how this actually looks. So, as you guys said earlier, that Eve and I have kind of gamed this system a little bit to make it hopefully a little bit easier on y'all when you're starting to create sessions. So, come back. So this is me logging in. So now this is a live shot of me in the Mark site. So if I want to create test sessions, I click Manage Test Sessions. I want to find students to test. Blue button here. So I'm going to pick on JJ Harris since.
We're only setting up test sessions for kids who have a accommodation.
No, you're setting up your session.
We're setting up all the sessions.
Right.
So even though they're rostered in there.
I'll show you how it's easy. Okay.
I know, but I just want to make sure.
So you guys should not have an option here. It should just show you what your assigned school. You do have options for grades. So if I want to set up my third grade test sessions, okay, click third. This is really easy. It's I guess easier for elementary folks than middle school folks, and we'll look at it from that perspective as well. My instructors are my 4 third grade teachers. If I pick on Affleck. Now, this is what I wanted to show y'all. This is where Eve and I have kind of, like I said, gamed this system a little bit. You see where it says Affleck, Jessica, homeroom N, Affleck, Jessica, homeroom Y. Maybe not every teacher's homeroom, but most should have an N and a Y. N is non-special ed students. Y is your special ed students who are rostered. All the special ed students should have an IEP and should need accommodations, right? Now, if it was all in one, you'd have to go in there and find your SPED students and assign accommodations. Here, I could choose these Y students, and if I click search, it's going to show these are the SPED students in that homeroom, okay? Yes? Yes. Yeah. Well, maybe, I wonder if we could, yeah, if we did it for SPED, we should be able to do it for ESOL. Okay, we'll work on that. Okay. All right, so to add students to a session, I just click add students. All right, so now I have started to create a session, right? And I can see my students here. These are the students I've added to this session. If I want to create a session in third grade with multiple classes, I can arrange this by any way I want. I can grab this Y student, and now they're in the session. I can grab the Y students from this homeroom. I can go and grab all of the third grade SPED students. Now those students. So this is my third grade SPED roster all in one session. Okay, so if I wanted to create a small group or something like that, I could work with that. So that makes it easy to kind of click through and create a session.
Would I make a session for every group that I have, or just an accommodated group, one big one? Even though maybe they'll have different teachers testing, or should I, which way should we go with that? So for every actual group that we have, should we make a session for each group, or?
You could. You'd only be able to have one proctor on that group, though. So if you like
Oh, you gotta have a teacher anyway.
Yeah, so data links to a student. It doesn't link to a roster or a session or where they are.
So if you set every third grader who's not in special ed up on one test session, there's only one proctor assigned. So only
Exactly.
one teacher can see that. So you really have to set one up for every homeroom.
Yes.
So you really have to set one up for the accommodation group. So that person can see it by location.
Right.
That's by location, not by proctor.
Right.
Because that instructor or proctor will be able to go ahead and see them and to go
Right.
ahead.
Exactly. So as a proctor, you have to be live and in the classroom with the students. And Scott will show you a little bit of that, or I might have to.
So if a kid is
Um,
absent, and they make it up with someone else, like set it up in
Yeah.
separate sessions?
Yes.
Proctor?
Yeah, if it's, so make it like a makeup session. Yeah.
I didn't catch that. If a kid's absent and they take the test with an EIP teacher the next day when they come back, I have to make different sessions with
Mhm.
that EIP teacher and that one kid. I
Yeah.
wonder if there's a way to lump everybody who missed it into one. You can.
You can.
You
So
can.
You can make a roster with your kids, like out of whatever group you want.
Right,
And
but you
I
have
think
to do
Pam's
that.
done really well. If they're all in the same setting, you can just
Mhm.
lump them all together and you can select your proctor and you're good to go.
Yeah.
It's really fast. It doesn't look fast because we're being very slow going through it, but it takes just a minute or two.
Yeah. Yeah. So if I want to make a new session, just remove students from the list. If I wanted to just test this one homeroom, just by homeroom, I just grab the N's and the Y's from this group. Now this teacher is, so all of their students are assigned to them, so that's another way to do it. Here you'd have to come back and assign accommodations to those special ed students, though, so that could be a bit of a, you might want to, if you're going to do it like that, I would add the Y's first, assign accommodations, and then go back and add the N's. Something that that I actually found this morning, when you started creating a session, I would go ahead and save it, because if this thing logs out on you, if it times out on you, and you've been in there working and maybe you took your eye off it for a second, it's going to lose all the work that you did. If you've been in there assigning accommodations, it doesn't auto-save. So just keep that in mind. But if you save the session and you save your work as you go, it's kind of like old school like Microsoft Word, so it's not going to auto-save. Mark is this website, I'm sure that if you've been in there, you've noticed, it's kind of prosaic. It's not even as advanced, I would say, as DRC, which is saying a lot. And I'm not trying to put it down. I think it's a great test. But the actual functionality of the site itself is, so there's no auto-save, right? Like when I go in there and I want to find one of y'all, when I'm searching, like I can't type FRA to find Eric. I have to type his whole last name to be able to find him. There's just some weird quirks. One of the things, actually the next slide, I think, if you've created a session, yeah, I put that here, like save session, save session, save session. And we kind of saw that already. If you want to select all the students, and we saw that, you just click the test, the box next to last name, and it'll select all the students. But I think on the next slide, yeah, so if you want to save this, and you guys probably know by now how I'm about naming conventions. We've worked with this a little bit, okay? So one of the things that you want to keep this to, since students are going to need to be able to type this in, and this is case sensitive. So don't bury the case of your test sessions. So my suggestion is to keep it all lowercase. Okay, so it's easy to find. Nobody has to click the shift bar. So the sessions that I created, I used, for elementary, I used the school initials, grade, teacher name, or small group, SG, or makeup, MU. And then for middle school, use school initials plus grade plus teacher last name, or small group, or makeup plus period, because that's how the rosters are, how they look for middle schools. The period number is actually in the rosters. So if I've created this, so I wouldn't worry about naming it like reading, unless you're going to do something different for those kids in that reading session versus the math session. But you probably won't be doing any of that unless we do that for those second grade students, but obviously going to come back to that.
So let me make sure I understand that correctly. So for math and for reading, the names are not linked. So I can do WS1
whatever, and then there's one, whatever, the same name for the two different tests?
Well, you can assign multiple tests to the same session. So if you set up a session and you assign the reading test, right? And they're done with the reading test. You can come back to that same session you've set up and then assign the math test. They take the math test. And the same session you've set up for math, come back to that and assign the language test. Does that make sense? So you only have to set these sessions up once. If you're happy with the sessions and you're careful about the way you set them up, you don't have to set them up 3 times.
So the sessions is not the test itself. it's
Right, the session is the location and where the kids are gonna live, right? And who's gonna, and actually another proctor could proctor a different test. You could even have multiple kids in the same session taking different tests.
So the way we group the kids is really what the sessions are.
Right.
You group the kids, then you assign the test.
Then you assign the test,
So
right?
the sessions, will they be available all year, so, you just assign the test, or, so we want to review them each administrative?
That's a no, I think.
I was saying to do this test session like at the same time, I'm just asking that question. This was my assign accommodations to this again, and.
I wonder why they don't say it's the session. It was still available.
Is it still available?
Yeah, because when I came around with that, the training,
Mm-hmm.
my summer school was still available.
So you could come and drag them over somehow?
Like reassign a test to them, just that's already in a session, just pull that session up and just make a change, whoever's new.
Right.
And then
It'll
add.
I'm just wondering if it's based on, now this is something that we're gonna have to get into, like when we actually take a test, but if you're saying your sessions are still there, but were they still there when we went over to the fall?
During the training, they were still there.
I don't think we were in fall yet, though. According to Matt, we were not in fall yet.
Okay.
What would be the reason, do you think, for the company to not leave the sessions for an entire year? Once you've set it up in the system, what would be the purpose of them?
I don't think there's a purpose in taking them away or leaving them. I think it's just a prosaic system. Hmm?
They can't stay there.
I don't think we're sure of that yet. Yeah. I'm just trying to get through this first administration.
And so at middle school, if we're going to have different teachers give the different content tasks, we have different content teachers,
Mhm.
we do have to set up
Exactly.
3
Yes.
different sessions.
Yes.
For each.
Or possibly 2, because I mean, you could have your ELA teacher do the reading and the language usage, right? Huh?
I'll give you our time.
Oh. So if we're looking at it from your perspective, Chris, we look at Clark Middle, and 7th grade. So who's a ELA teacher? Okay. So this is how his classes are going to look. So he's got a homeroom, he's got a period 2 language arts, or that's advanced language arts. He's got a period 4 language arts, period 5, period 7. Do you see how that looks?
So we have to set up a session for Mr. Woodward, we can put all of his students and all of his periods in it,
You could,
but then we have to set up a different session for math.
right, yeah,
Reading, we can copy the reading.
right,
Reading.
yes, yep. It's a little more complicated when we're looking at setting up sessions for middle school. Right. So, I'm just using this to kind of keep myself organized. All right, so accommodations. Let's talk about accommodations here. For the there are some universal embedded tools available to all students who take all math tests. That includes the Zoom, the highlighter, eraser. They're really more like tools. The line reader, notepad, answer eliminator, calculator, ruler, protractor. Those are item-based. So if the item dictates the use of a calculator or protractor, then it uses that. You can use this keyboard navigation. There's some instructions. These are linked in here. So text-to-speech can be assigned. It must be enabled, what we talked about for map growth 2 through 5 or 6+. So these non-embedded features are also included in the accommodations. So the presentation accommodations, I kind of tried to arrange this in the way that we're used to the language of milestones. Presentation includes the human reader or signer. Actually, native language translation is offered. I would say use that in rare situations. Scribe is going to be rare. Screen reader is going to be pretty rare. And then obviously extended time, frequent breaks. Now I'm not, like extended time in math is a little bit different because the test is going to take as long as it takes, right? Because it's an adaptive test. Yeah. Yep. And you can also suspend the test and come back to it on a different day as well, so keep that in mind.
So there's no need to really put extended time for your breaks.
Exactly. Well, yeah, so that's one thing. Unless we're just trying to document it for documentation's sake, that they were provided those accommodations. But yeah, that was one of the things that I was thinking. It's really based on the groupings that you make, whether it's an extended time group or a small group or a frequent breaks group. And then additional material. So they offer English or bilingual dictionary and thesaurus. They say those should be universal accommodations. Now this goes back to the conversation we had about, we feel like that's a little bit too much if we're trying to truly test reading level and language there. Now, with these tests, if you're doing like human signer and they're signing questions are going to be different for every student. So that's like a one-on-one situation there. Or human reader is also a one-on-one situation. So keep that in mind. There's no book for this, right? It's an adaptive test. There's no book to read from. A teacher would actually have to be over the shoulder of a kid reading or signing questions. Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
So there's no, the interpreter or signer logging into an account, there's none of that, they literally have to.
Literally sign it, yeah. And they're like, Milestones added the human sign, or the video signer. There's no video signer in that. Okay. All right, so let's go back over to the Mark site real quick, just to show you how to assign accommodations. So if I had this group of students who all had this same, I just created like a monster group here. But if I had this group that all needed the same accommodation, okay? I come in here and I click this select all button, and then the blue assign accommodations, and I can go in here. And really the most important one here is going to be the text-to-speech, right? That's the only one that's really going to be an embedded feature within here. It's the one you got to make sure that you click. If you don't click it, it's not going to be available. So the text-to-speech shows up twice. I want you guys to look at this for a second. This is what I was talking about with text-to-speech. It gives you 4 options. So you can read the answer choices, read reading passages or assets such as reading passages, question directions, or questions and prompts, or all of the above, or 1 or 2, or 3, right? Probably the standard accommodation for read aloud is going to be these 2, question directions and question prompts. If the IEP dictates answer choices and passages. Yeah, 3 out of 4 probably, yeah. Now I want to also point out that this accommodation is here on this accommodation list. It's also down here as well. I think, now I haven't tested this yet. What I've been doing is just clicking them in both places, just to make sure that I've covered my bases there. I'm not sure if you can just do one or not the other. I haven't explored that yet. I haven't tested that yet as a student and gone in and looked. I'm just being careful as far as assigning that accommodation. All I do is click assign if I want to assign that to all these students. And now you see this accommodations over here. It popped up yes for all of these students now. So that all of those students now have the text-to-speech accommodation. Right, yeah. Now I can come back if I need to and assign individual accommodations, if I need to do that. Once you've assigned accommodations to multiple students, though, you can't go back and assign more multiple accommodations. So just be careful when you go in if you want all students to have a certain accommodation, to be cognizant of clicking all of the ones you need to click. Per session, yes. Once you assign a group accommodation, you can't go back in and assign another group accommodation. See, if I click here and I want to go back and assign accommodation, I'm going to get this error message. It says, when adding accommodations to multiple students, please deselect those who have previously assigned accommodation. All of these students have previously gotten an accommodation. Now I could go back and de-assign the accommodation, and then go back. But that's kind of difficult. All right, so if I want to, and then the rest of this is pretty self-explanatory. If I want to assign a test, I come here to this left-hand button, and the test name. So the test names are rather long. All of these tests are all in this. You can see the skills checklist. The screeners are here as well. We want to isolate ourselves for this first session to these really here, starting with growth language 2 through 12. You can see these are tied to Georgia Standards of Excellence. Math 2 through 5, Math 6+, et cetera, et cetera. These are the ones that we want to assign. So if I'm assigning the growth language 2 through 12 test to these students, I just assign. Now, and we'll show you that in a moment, when students go in to test, they're assigned that test. And again, and I didn't do this and I should have, if I were to get logged out of this, what I've done so far, it would lose all of this because I haven't saved this session. So I need to quickly get in here and save it. And this was CMS 7 Woodward. Let's just say it's period 5. I think it was like all of the students. So I'm going to save and exit. When you save and exit, it brings you back out to this manage test session screen. To find that session again, I just come here to show. And this is what I was talking about earlier. It auto-populates to my name because I'm the person who's in here. If I want to look at sessions at all, like if Chris has created a session at Clark Middle, if I just delete my name and just wait for a second, you see how that all proctors pops up? Just click on all proctors. Oh, and look, Chris has done a test session. So now I can see that, and Tiffany has as well. Well, I guess I'm seeing everybody because I'm a district user, but if I was at Clark Middle, then I could see the session Henley created and the ones that I created as well.
We saw it across school.
That was because you were given a higher level of access just for ease with the summer craziness. Yeah, every year, so doing this, I don't want to get into this too much right now, but we need to figure out a better way to do it in the summer. But we'll talk about that later. So I have created this session, and let me go back to my little presentation. So I did a screenshot of an example of an IEP, and you guys probably know where to find this already. But if I go into, I think it's is it settings under accommodations, features for students, it gives you, at the top of this, it gives you, oh wait, no, this is the accommodations in that. We looked at that already. No, I screenshotted it. Here we go. So under accommodations and supports for students and their IEPs, I've got that open on one screen, I'm going back and forth, and I need to see, and I've assigned those Y students into a session. I can kind of go back and forth and see which accommodations they need. Not only the state testing accommodations, but also these classroom testing accommodations and modifications as well should play into these. And they're not demonstrably different. Like in some cases, it will give oral reading of test questions in the state testing accommodation, but not oral reading of question answers. And that's going to be in this classroom modification. Okay.
The 4 options that are text to speech.
Mhm.
Which ones did we decide? We're obviously not using for you.
The 3.
There's 2 for questions as well.
Right.
Now, we're
I
talking
think
about
it's-
just for second, right? Because
No, I'm talking about just regular conversations.
No, read the passage.
Well,
No,
yeah,
I meant,
check
I was
that.
thinking about directions, I'm sorry.
Oh.
The directions is an accommodation.
And the
Yes.
reason that,
Specific to a child.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it could be all 3 in that case. The child didn't have.
It could be. Right.
the reason I asked was on questions, like reading questions, there's 2 different, there's questions, directions, and questions prompts. Like there's 2, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be rare for, and it's not question/directions, it's question directions.
Yeah.
Question directions is the directions. Question prompts is the actual prompt. Okay. And we went through assigning a test. We assigned is everybody comfortable with setting up sessions? You got time?
Yeah,
I know you gotta go in a second.
yeah, I've got a meet the teacher thing. Well, I've already met her. I'll kind of run through this a little bit quickly because I get the easy part of what this is. And James, you think maybe we show the video at the end of that?
Sure. There's a nice little cheesy video that kids can watch to kind of warm themselves up to the test. We linked it here. You could watch that on your own. Also, the practice test. It gives a pretty good idea for kids as far as what the test is actually going to look like. And that's also linked here. So you guys can go in and look at that on your own, I think. We're just going to get a good laugh out of those
It's
videos.
pretty ridiculous.
It's
I think
cheesy.
it-
It's awesome,
it's
though,
okay
you know?
for most elementary, but like,
Yeah,
later kids don't need it.
I would say definitely not appropriate for middle school.
Vision.
Oh, you did? Okay, all right.
So this is kind of picking off right by where James said the last slide. So once you've saved that session, you have it set up, then the next thing you're gonna do is gonna select test now. You wanna make sure that all your kids are checked on the left-hand side. You'll put test now.
This is the proctor view, what teachers.
Yep,
see.
so right now what's gonna happen, that's a great question, you're gonna see the proctor view, then you'll see what the student will see at their computer, and kind of what's gonna happen simultaneously between the student view and what the proctor action needs to occur.
And teachers log on to the same,
Yep.
Yep.
we're logged on.
So we know when to tell them how far back do they need to go in their email to find that one that told them to register their account. You know, when those are-
We could probably, refresh that, but now.
We could refresh, I think everybody,
I
yeah.
hadn't logged in until the other day, and I logged in, and it was like.
Oh,
password.
yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
I was like, yeah, I would like a password, and it set it immediately for me just by going to the website, using my Clark County email with no other information.
Yeah.
It would take right away.
Right, yep. So that's probably the best option. Just say you forgot your password and it'll send you a temporary and then you can set yourself up.
This is real straightforward, you're going to test now. So once you select test now, the screen will change, and this is what you'll see. And so you'll see the session name and the password. And so the students will need this. This is what they're going to key in, how they actually access the test, and you'll see that on the next slide. So you've just left the teacher station. The proctor has walked over to the students, and this is where the students are going to manually key in that code you just saw. So the teacher can have the broadcast and something like that, so they'll be able to see what the session name and the password is.
And this is the way the little town browser looks.
So you'll notice these are cell phone pictures because you can't even access a camera, you can't do anything when it's locked in, it works.
Yeah, I was literally taking pictures of this.
So the login information is sort of like the Georgia Milestones where you get test tickets.
We'll get that in just a second. So every student that's in a proctor's group will have the same test session and the same login password. And so that brings us to the next piece here. And so they'll enter that stuff while we're done here. So the next, they're going to select their name from a class list. And I didn't put the class list of names, but it's exactly what you would think. The student should go and find what their name is, and they click their name. Once they've done that, the student's name is going to pop up on their screen. And this is the part where the proctors you need to go through and make sure that Victoria's not trying to, jump in on Beverly's action over there, and that all the kids have clicked their own name. And then we just go back to the proctor seat. And so when you go back in, you'll see in just a second that you'll verify that all the students are correct and you're ready to move forward. So it's going to ask, have you in fact selected the right kid? You have, so the kid will hit yes. Yeah.
If the kid does hit yes before you get up there,
It's not going to hurt anything as long as it's the proper kid. So just like with reading inventory, a kid could easily log into our kid's account, right? So when you're walking around, you'll be fine. But even once they hit yes, the kid's name will be at the top, and you'll see that view in just a second. So once you've confirmed all your kids have selected the right name, and you're right, you are going to have the Beverly Harpers in your class that are going to go rogue and just click somebody else's, and you can try to. They're going to have accommodations being a small group anyway, so they'll be plenty help. You want to make sure you come over here and you're going to click confirm now, and that's what's going to give the kids the ability to actually jump into the test. And so then we're back to the student screen now, and the student is going to cleverly click start.
that is the same for kindergarten.
Yes, same view.
And so then I put the exiting piece on there as well, and there's one more slide that's got some extra pieces, but once your group is done, you'll end the testing session, and you'll want to save the test session. It'll actually, in the next screen, it'll show you what will happen. It'll give you a choice if you want to save and exit or delete session.
You want to save.
Yeah.
Save.
Correct.
Yes.
Yep. And as I understand it, you can't get it back.
Yeah.
Right. So don't hit the no button.
Don't hit delete.
Are you sure?
So just assume nothing in math happens automatically.
Right.
You have to be very vigilant about.
And so what actually happens is give you a little peace of mind. If you do hit delete session, it's not like, cool, you're done. It's like really?
Yeah.
And so it'll say you'll lose all this information. Like it gives you one last warning before you
Right.
go in there. And then I threw in another slide here too that can kind of show you some of the other options. So there are going to be times where maybe you need to pause a test. Let's say that the students don't have time to complete it in that administrative setting. Then you can come in here and you can select all students, and then you're going to select your actions. So you can pause or suspend the test, and you'll have the ability to just reactivate that test the next day the exact same way.
What's the difference between pause and suspend?
Pause is, oh, I gotta go. Suspend is, I gotta go home.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
There we go. 28 days.
Did you come up with that?
I was thinking about going home. I think that's all the pieces I had. I had the really easy part of this because James gets into the weeds and I just kind of run through it and show you guys what you can do. But going through that, the second part that I put together there is just what the teacher's going to see when they click start test, and then what they're going to need to do for each individual student. And then back to the teacher desk, because it's kind of a little ping pong right there for just a minute. But it's really, really simple. I kind of understood our trainer that we had over the summer. I think I understood the challenges she had in helping me understand what she was doing, because it's really easy once you play with it. Like, I hadn't seen this before a couple days ago, really. It's super, super simple. You guys know I'm slow, I got this. So, if I got it, y'all got it. But if you have any questions, if I can be helpful in any way, I'm happy to do that. Whatever I can do to help.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So You'll be seeing something from us about the second grade decision for the end of day on Monday, all right? Anybody have any other
I was
questions?
wondering, when we used to do either benchmarks or milestones, like we were kind of given a slideshow that was for teachers to put up, whatever, like log in here, step 1, step 2. Is that something we need to make, or will you send something like that out to
We can make that.
everybody? Or?
Yeah, I made one
It
for
was so
the,
helpful. They just put it up on the
Sure.
screen, and it gave
Yeah.
them peace of mind of like. Does
We
everybody
shared it with, I made it, I shared it with them.
You had all of the
Okay.
logins and everything. Yeah.
Would you
So
share
it's
that
done.
with me, then I can steal it as my own and make some changes?
Yeah.
later now?
Sure.